Welcome to Soul Nutrition, where we discuss the various ways of nourishing our souls. I'm your host, author, speaker, and abundance coach, Raina Rose. Today's guests are Michael Maduro and Drew Hammer of the Childhelp charitable organization. Childhelp is one of America's most recognized nonprofit organizations dedicated to helping victims of child abuse and neglect and at-risk children through advocacy, prevention, treatment, and community outreach. Today's guests are Michael Maduro and Drew Hammer of the Childhelp charitable organization. Childhelp is one of America's most recognized nonprofit organizations dedicated to helping victims of child abuse and neglect and at-risk children through advocacy, prevention, treatment, and community outreach. Michael, Drew, it's a joy to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Well, we've got so much to talk about today. I have been, episode after episode, anybody who's been watching, I've been promoting this Well Corona online summit that we're donating to Childhelp. So we want to learn all about what Childhelp does, what they're about, and why people need to go to the Critical Relief Fund, donate, and just move their hearts to know why this is something on Christ's heart, is to help the children in need. And so I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the history of Childhelp and how it has gotten here over 61 years to where it's gotten today.
You want to take that, you want me?
Well, I'll start, and Michael's really the professional with all the statistics and information. But first of all, we want to thank you for your donations, because every dollar really goes towards helping an abused child. 90 cents of every dollar goes straight to the children. So we want to thank you so much for your dedication and helping us raise funds for these children. But this organization started over 60 years ago by Sarah O'Mara and Yvonne Fedderson, and they have literally triumphed and worked 24/7, right?
Non-stop.
Non-stop for children. And it's really phenomenal what they've done. And I'll let you give all the information, because
I want to interject there as you hop over, that these women, 61 years later, are completely involved in this organization. I mean, when we went to say, hey, we'd like to donate money, they made sure that we were vetted, that we were going to be doing a service to this organization. And they were on the phone making sure that everything was coming together to really lift up the organization and help these children. So I want to say that this wasn't just something they did way back when. They are still critically involved in every step.
100%.
Absolutely. No, Sarah O'Mara and Yvonne Fedderson are still the acting president and CEO of the organization today.
Yes.
And again, they founded this organization more than 60 years ago. And you got to understand, 60 years ago, you had two Hollywood starlets, because that's who Sarah and Yvonne were 60 years ago. They were on the Ozzie and Harriet show.
Right.
These are two women who auditioned at separate times to go and represent the USA on a USO tour during the Vietnam War. And in that process, came across a number of orphans that were standing out in the streets as a result of a typhoon. And against orders and direction, they took these children in, because that's what they do. And next thing you know, they are building churches and orphanages and schools all throughout Eastern Asia. As it relates to the war, and they're getting the military involved in this, because caring for children in need is at the heart of who these two women are. Upon the fall of Saigon, these two women orchestrated Operation Baby Lift, where they rescued more than 3,600 children, bringing them from overseas to the United States, where when these children came off the plane, there was already a ready and adoptive family for them. And that's the effort that these two women...
Kids had adopted
more
families.
Than 3,600 children, yes, rescued. Had they not been rescued, these children would not be alive. Fall of Saigon was happening, their entire country was blowing up, and these women orchestrated the rescue of these children, which, you look it up, it's called Operation Baby Lift, saving those lives and bringing them to the United States, where every single one of those children were immediately adopted upon departure of the plane. Now,
Amazing.
if you meet Sarah and Yvonne, I got to tell you, these are probably two of the most charismatic, passionate women you will ever meet. I love these two women. I wish the world was made up of millions of people like Sarah and Yvonne because of the generosity and the gratitude and the servitude that exists within them. But to kind of amplify that a little bit, they come back from Vietnam War. They're stateside. They're like, okay, let's go back and try to resume our acting careers. And they get a phone call from then California Governor Ronald Reagan and his wife Nancy, and they say, hey, we'd like to have a conversation with you about what we consider America's best kept secret, and that's the topic of child abuse. And I can still sit and hear these conversations with Sarah and Yvonne as they've shared these stories with me over the years, where they're both prepared to go and talk to Nancy and Ronald and say, we're done, we've done our service, we are going to go back to the lives that we have and resume the careers that we have. And Nancy and Ron are talking to them about these children in need, and without missing a beat, both of them are like, we're in, we'll do this. And it was actually the Reagans that funded the very first study to determine what child abuse in America looked like. And that is how early Childhelp has been on the scene in addressing child abuse in this country.
Well, they didn't even know there was child abuse.
Right.
Right. And at that time, I'm sure that people were like, that's not abuse. I was abused too. So everything's fine, you know?
Absolutely.
Right.
Stay behind closed doors. I mean, I'm in my mid 40s and not a victim of child abuse at all, but I can still remember hearing conversations in my household about, hey, cry, I'll give you something to cry about, right? I mean, there's still the joke of, you know, I'm half Puerto Rican, I'm half Italian, so, you know, I got the chancla coming out at me to kind of give me a spank, or a wooden spoon to kind of give me a spank. And,
right.
you know, there was always that conversation growing up of what is appropriate discipline versus what is abuse. And conversations going to physical abuse, to verbal abuse, to emotional abuse, to spiritual abuse. And Childhelp has been on the forefront and has addressed every one of those issues over the last 61 years. Nearly every law that exists in America today that relates to child safety was pioneered through Sarah and Yvonne.
Wow.
And that is how, so you can imagine 60 years ago, there was no internet. There was no Wi-Fi and cell phones and cyberbullying and online predators. So the issues and the challenges that we are facing today as it relates to child abuse, they have 60 years of history and experience on how to address those, because they've been tackling this issue from before anybody even wanted to acknowledge that it existed. And that is really where Childhelp and Sarah and Yvonne originate in this story.
That's right.
And it's fascinating.
And
so,
I want to bring up, like, you know, human trafficking is a big word on everybody's lips right now, but it really starts at home most of the time. First of all, human trafficking and child abuse is 91% inside of their people they know. And it starts with being neglected, being abused, and looking for that love that you become, you know, easy prey for the predators. So when you can stop it here at child abuse and child neglect, that's where we also stop the further problem of becoming easy prey for traffickers as well, you know, because it's a lot of times those kids that come from homes where they're seeking love, and they have the Romeo trafficker that makes them think that they love them, you know. But when you have this foundation that Childhelp helps build, and from what I've read, you also help like families, right? Educate the families so that they have better tools to love their own children. We don't all have that because not everybody grew up in a loving home. So then they continue the cycle if there aren't tools. So could you talk to us about some of those tools? I know that you have the Speak Up, Be Safe curriculum that I think that rolled out in 2018 or 2019. Is that correct?
Well, the last modification of the curriculum, the adaptation of that, expanding it through high school age, expanded in 2017. And that's really, it's a fascinating and phenomenal curriculum. What you're talking about, Raina, is so true. I mean, the reason that we are seeing more than 90% of abuse happening within close circles of families and friends is because there's such an ill identification from children to understand what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, and a fear of being wrong. And that is why at Childhelp, we have pioneered 2 national, if not global programs that we are seeing transform and change that in communities across the land. And really, it's our 1-2 punch on how to break the cycle of abuse, family by family, community by community. And it starts with our prevention education curriculum, and that is called Childhelp Speak Up, Be Safe. Now, this curriculum is the only curriculum on the market today that is designed for students pre-K through 12th grade that educates them on the signs and symptoms of abuse, but more importantly, what to do when they witness it or experience it. So our belief and contention is that if we can educate children at the youngest age possible to understand what truly is appropriate and inappropriate, what truly is dangerous and safe, and then in that process, help them understand the tools that are available to them to identify a safe adult if what they are learning about in their classroom is something they are either experiencing or witnessing firsthand, then we are taking the first step in breaking that cycle. Now, the second program that we have that couples and marries Childhelp Speak Up, Be Safe so well is the Childhelp National Child Abuse Hotline. And that number is 1-800-4-CHILD. Right. Now, that hotline is the only hotline in the world that operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year in every state, Canada, Guam, and all U.S. territories, that is manned and operated by professional master or doctoral degree counselors, can serve up to 170 different languages, and has the technology built inside to immediately dispose whatever community resource or service is necessary to address a child or a family in crisis. So now, a child is at school, and they are learning about what is safe and what is dangerous, what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. And in that education, they are connecting with an experience in their own life or with somebody that they are associated with. And now at their disposal, any time of day, they can connect with a professional counselor that can help educate what is the next step for them to take and really move them more into the shadows and let the appropriate authorities and the appropriate personnel into the light to change and alter that situation so that either themselves or the person that they are connected with and identifying with can find safety and refuge from the harm that they are in. And that 1-2 punch of being able to educate and intervene is what distinguishes Childhelp from any other organization anywhere in the world. Now, off of that, once a child has been rescued from their situation, they now have an opportunity to connect with one of Childhelp's multidisciplinary advocacy centers. So one of the things that we see in communities across the country is anytime a child discloses that they've been abused, they are re-traumatized by the abuse the moment they are speaking in children. In communities across the country, if they disclose to one adult, then that adult then has to bring in someone else, typically law enforcement. If it's a situation that involves physical abuse or sexual abuse, now there may be medical personnel, legal personnel. All of these different individuals are coming into the story at separate periods of time, meaning that child has to re-disclose their story time after time after time. It also means they're being re-traumatized time after time after time. Also, as we all know, we tell a story. I may tell you a story this way today. I'm going to say the same story to somebody else, but I might forget a certain detail that I shared with you or add a certain detail that I didn't share the first time. That becomes a defense attorney's dream because now the child looks discreditable. And now it's like your story keeps changing every time you say it. Now the child is on the defense.
To defend himself over and over and over again. Besides just even re-traumatizing himself, it's like having to plead their case. What I love about Childhelp is without re-traumatizing them, without causing them to have to plead their case over and over, you're giving the children a voice they never had. That, you know, for so long, it was like, you know, be over there and be quiet if you were in that kind of home, you know, like you're to be seen and not heard. And so even if a child had something, they're not allowed to speak. And so what Childhelp and the Childhelp National Hotline do for children is they give them a voice. They give the victimized a voice they never had. And that is, I mean, such an incredible gift just to have a voice, to be able to speak up for what's right, to speak up for what's just.
Okay, I'm coming back in. I would like to add too that what Sarah and Yvonne have added or really brought to Childhelp is the love aspect, because they are Christians and their faith in God is pinnacle in everything they do. And even on the doorways, above every single door, it says, those who enter here, all who enter here
will find love.
Will find love. And, you know, I guess you could say the privilege. I had the privilege of going and seeing where the children were before, and then the advocacy center we have here in Phoenix. And it was the scariest. These children come in, they're brought in police cars, and a lot of abused children think it's their fault anyways.
Right.
Because they think, oh, I did something wrong, you know, my parents beat me up or whatever because I'm a
That's
bad
what they've been
kid.
told their whole life, right?
All they've been told. And, you know, that whole saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me, is not true, because words are cutting to the soul.
The power
they've
of
been
life and
told-
death is in our tongue. And
That's exactly right. Choose life, Jesus says.
absolutely.
So these children are coming in and they're taught, you know, we didn't want you, you're a terrible kid, you know, we hate you, you know, we never loved you, you know, yada, yada, yada. And then they get picked up in a police car and they get brought to a police center, which is the most terrifying thing in the world for an adult, much less a child. So here they are the victims. But the advocacy center that Sarah and Yvonne started, the prototype of this, they joined, they're in a building where Childhelp has half the building and the police have the other half. So like what Michael was saying, everything is done right there, but they enter the advocacy center, and I wish we were there and we had a camera and we could show it to you. It is a huge playground. And when they come in, they get a backpack, they get a toy, they get a stuffed animal. If they need it, you know, a lot of these children have never even been showered or cleaned, and they come in filthy and they're in old clothes, you know, dirty clothes. They shower them, they put them in clean clothes. So when they have to go through the system and be interviewed, they have a medical exam to see if there's any sexual abuse there. You know, these are all very traumatic things.
Yeah.
What Sarah and Yvonne has done is they've added love to this, that when they come in, they are loved on. Instead of you're a bad kid, you're sitting in a police department, they are loved on. And that's what Sarah and Yvonne brings to Childhelp. They bring the heart and the soul to help child abuse. It's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, at the multidisciplinary advocacy centers, they are warm environments for children. It's completely designed and opened in order for children to feel like comfortable and at play, as opposed to a cold or sterile hospital room or police station. But the element of the program itself is that the child only has to tell their story one time, which means they never have to tell their story again. Their story is always documented through video and audio, so that an entire team of professionals can use that story in order to prosecute offenders and allow the child to move quickly and immediately towards their healing process.
Yeah.
Where then at our advocacy centers, they can receive the various forms of art therapy and traditional therapy and speech therapy in order to advance their healing and get past the trauma that they were victimized by. And that is an approach that we have seen not only significantly impact the rate by which offenders are first prosecuted and charged, but also advance the rate by which children can heal from their trauma and move on. And it's actually been replicated in more than 23 different countries around the world as far as a best practice model. And again, completely innovated by Sarah and Yvonne, with the focal point being on the child, not the focal point being on anything else. The child's health and well-being is of greatest priority. And one of the other things I love that Drew brought up, the fact that above every Childhelp facility, you will see those words, all who enter here will find love. But you will also find in every Childhelp facility a chapel. And the reason that we have a chapel built into every facility is because we are sensitive that the trauma that the child is experiencing is also being received and addressed by the professionals that we employ, the volunteers that come and dedicate their time and service to us, the family members that are trying to help and support that child. That trauma exists in that entire unit of people day in and day out. And we know that the only way that that trauma is ever going to be fully healed is the restoration of the Holy Spirit given to us in Jesus Christ. And that is why a chapel exists in every single facility that we have.
Well, I'd like to add a little personal story that I had the privilege of being a part of. Is when we finished the advocacy center, we worked night and day to get this thing open in like 8 days.
8 days.
Right? So
Wow.
I called a friend, Janet Winiger, and I said, I want to go see where the children used to be taken, opposed to where they get to come now, where it's this safe environment. So I called ahead of time, and I think there were 18 children that came in, which is so heartbreaking in itself that in one day there were 18 children brought in to the police station. So I went and got 18 Happy Meals, and I went down to the police station. They gave me approval to go down there with Janet, and we were handing the Happy Meals out to everyone. And there was this one precious Hispanic boy. He was probably 4 or 5 years old. And this was 7 o'clock that night. And I don't know, my children were hungry at 4 o'clock. And this was 7. And who knows when their last meal was? You know, you just don't know when all this abuse is going on. So we're handing him out, and this little boy would not touch his Happy Meal. So I walked over to him and I asked him his name, and I said, "May I help you get your Happy Meal out?" And he was so traumatized by sitting there. And I had heard through the grapevine that he had watched his sister be killed by his father. So you just can't even, these are things that we can't even fathom. This is the depths of despair that these children have to see, which they should never have to see in their life. So I was trying to talk with him and get him to eat, but I couldn't get him to eat. So I finally just started praying, and I said, "Jesus, you're going to have to show me, how can I reach this child? You know, give me the compassion and show me what I can do to reach this child." And right then, the song came to me, "Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so." So I knelt down, and it was not my voice, but I sang to him. And that's what got him. I started singing in his ear, "Jesus loves you, this I know, for the Bible tells you so." And as soon as I started singing that, he grabbed his burger, he jumped in my lap, he put his head on my shoulder and his arm around my neck and was eating his burger like that, and put his head on my shoulder. All he needed to know was somebody loved them. And again, that's what Sarah and Yvonne, they bring heart and soul, and they know, like we all know, that this problem is so much bigger than we are. Yeah. And you know, for a child, a lot of them didn't have a loving father, so it's hard for them to equate a loving God as a loving father, because they never had a loving father. They teach them that there is a God, there is someone bigger than them that loves them unconditionally, and God did not put this on them. You know, people fail us. God does not fail us. People fail us. So we teach them through the chapels, through the chaplains that come in, and all the facilities that we have, that there is a God that loves you no matter what. And he did not put this on you, but he is there to take care of you when people have failed you. And that, to me, is the biggest part of Childhelp, because we can bring them in, we can check them for child abuse, we can check them for physical abuse, we can counsel them. That's all very necessary. But to me, God made us as a spiritual, mental, and physical being. And that's what I love about Childhelp, is they fill all those needs. They fill the spiritual, they fill the mental, they teach them through subs, this program that they have in the schools that Michael was very instrumental in bringing to fruition. And then the spiritual. So what I'm proud of about Childhelp is Sarah and Yvonne has made sure over these almost 61 years that all three parts of a whole person is filled.
Well stated.
Wow. I mean, this is something that, you know, nobody knows about this. And this is why bringing organizations like Childhelp to the forefront of people's minds is so important, because nobody talks about it, because first of all, the children haven't had voices for so long, you know, and so the adults certainly aren't going to talk about abusing their children, and you don't talk about your neighbor, you know, publicly doing that. And so it's so important, you know, we're not naming names, but we're naming the problem, and there's a solution, and Childhelp has been that solution for over 60 years, and bringing hope and love and peace to children who've only known terror.
Well, and we want to do this on a much bigger scale. So we're doing a 60th whole program where we are saying we need to take this all over the United States. We need to have advocacy centers in every large city in America because of the need. We need to have a hotline, billboards all over America. And I always say the gospel's free, but ministry is expensive. And it takes money to do this. So we're on a rampage. I mean, we are serious about taking this because the more money we raise, the more children we can help and the more awareness we can get around the country. So we really want to go on a large campaign and say, let's take this all over the United States. This shouldn't just be, like Michael said, there's 23 cities now. We have a lot of big cities with a lot of child abuse. And just since this COVID has come out, our hotline has increased 31%. So this is a very serious need because children aren't in school. And Michael and I talked about it before the program. School sometimes is the only safe place they have. They're fed a meal. Mm-hmm. They're away from their perpetrators and their abusers. And now they're home full time. And they're either neglected, they're not being fed, they're starving, they're being abused. And you know what? Let's be honest. It's stressful to raise healthy kids when you're healthy. So you can imagine when drugs come in the mix and alcohol and, I think the breakdown of our families today is a huge problem because we have a lot of single mothers that are trying to do 3 different jobs and be the mother and the father and, yada, yada, yada.
And they're stressed about finances right now too, because maybe some of them can't work and they still have to pay their rent
and it's a recipe for disaster because who do they take it out on? The children in their home that are crying and tired themselves and upset. And, it's just a huge issue. So we are really on a campaign from the 60th to move this forward on a much larger national and international campaign. And we need help to do it. It takes money.
I want to talk about that in the face of COVID-19 and all of the Childhelp in-person events, being canceled until further notice and the deficit that that's causing in projected funds. That now there's a critical relief fund, and we want to make sure people go to childhelp.org and hit donate to help make up for some of the funds that all these fundraisers that people got to come to in person, learn about things, have been canceled until further notice. So we need to make up these funds. So those of us who are so blessed to work from home, to be able to continue to be financially okay during this crisis, we need to step up and help out. Every dollar counts. So really go to that childhelp.org, hit donate, because we need some critical relief here in this time when, the in-person events just aren't able to happen. And that's where the money gets raised, right?
And we would like to go out to corporations because who doesn't want to help abused children? And in every city of America, there's corporations that have funds because all corporations give to charitable funds.
Yes,
and we need to get billboards out in these cities. If we could help putting billboards and giving to our hotline, because we can reach more people if our hotline has more awareness.
Absolutely. And for those, what's in it for you, these donations are taxable or tax deductions. I know I get saved every year on my charitable donations because that brings just down my taxes so much that I originally owed a lot and now I owe very little or nothing because of charitable donations. So on top of you're helping children, you're helping yourself because this is money you'd have to put anyway out in taxes.
And who knows where it goes when it goes to taxes? This way you can control where it goes.
Absolutely.
And it's going straight to help the children.
Yeah, that's one of the values that I get asked this question a lot. 60-year-old national nonprofit organization. I'm surprised I've never heard of you before. And the reality is that Childhelp is one of the most cost-efficient nonprofit organizations in the world, with nearly 90 cents of every donated dollar going directly into programs and service delivery. And we've got other programs across the country. We've got residential treatment facilities that are 24-hour facilities designed to take on the worst cases of child abuse, where children live and receive non-public school education, every form of therapy, including equine and animal therapy, clergy services, all designed to help elevate.
I know you have villages in California, and then there's a big ranch right out in Tennessee.
So yeah, we've got a residential. We call them villages. Yes, we've got one in Southern California, right outside of Palm Springs in Beaumont. We've got another one in Virginia, on the East Coast, in Lignum, Virginia. And then down in Knoxville, Tennessee, we've got another multidisciplinary advocacy center with also a large grounds and lands where we do foster family placement, we do adoption care, we do group homes. But in our villages, in our residential treatment facilities, again, we are taking on some of the worst cases of abuse that you can imagine. Children that have literally been carved on, burned, scorned, deformed. We take on some of the worst cases of abuse that you can imagine. And in this environment, we work with the children to give them a home style. They live in a cottage, not in a hospital bed or in a psychiatric facility, even though it is licensed as a psychiatric facility because of the care that we are able to provide to these children. But they live in a cottage with other children of their own age and gender. They receive non-public school education. They receive art therapy and music therapy and equine therapy and traditional talk therapy. They have an opportunity to run in California, the rolling green hills with an overshot of snow-capped mountains. In Virginia, it's the deep pines and forestry where they get to hike and go on obstacle courses, and they get to be a child. They get to have a childhood. And for the first time in their lives, they get to dream about what life would be like without trauma, without abuse, without the dangers and fears that they have in store. And then after our villages, we do foster care placements. We have group homes. We have adoption services. And all of this is designed, again, to advance a child from a dangerous situation to a safer situation, to an environment where they're not receiving love and the ability to dream, to an environment where they can fulfill dreams and have imaginative play and develop social skills and peer relationships and have a childhood. And that is really what Childhelp is aiming to offer children everywhere across the land. And
I wanted to say, when I think about these villages that you describe and these facilities, when we pray, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, I really think of something like this. You're bringing a little piece of heaven on earth to these children who've only known hell, who've only known the screaming and gnashing of teeth, literally in a lot of their cases.
Right.
Yeah, children are literally looking at our staff and calling our staff, as well as Sarah and Yvonne and others, angels. I mean, because that's really how they see them, as angels who have helped them get through something they never thought they were ever going to get through.
Well, and I will say too, when we say 90 cents of every dollar, when you see the programs that we have, the children that we get in the villages are literally the worst cases that the government gives up on. They've been in and out of sometimes 30 foster care homes. So they need a lot of therapy and love, and a lot of times one-on-one attention. So we have to employ a lot of people to help these severely abused children, because they are really psychologically, spiritually, in every way messed up. When you think about it, that's a very low, 10 cents per dollar when you think of all the programs that we do.
Well, and that's the point. I mean, there's not, with only 10 cents, and that's got to cover all of your overhead, your administrative expenses, your marketing. That means you don't have a lot of money left over for marketing and PR and stuff like that. Now, that's one issue that is addressed why a lot of people may not have heard of Childhelp. Another issue is the subject matter in and of itself. Let's be honest. I mean, child abuse is not a subject that anybody wants to talk about, and they definitely don't want to think that it's got any proximity to their own lives. So it's difficult. Then you also add into the fact, because we protect the children that are entrusted to our care, unlike some other organizations that are able to take the children that they are providing direct service to and do a PSA that features their children, like a child cancer organization or medical organization. We can't. So we don't have the opportunity to say, look at all of these children. We can't, and we wouldn't even if we could, because the safety of the children is more important to us than anything else. So, unfortunately for a lot of people, you may have to deal with a mug like this to kind of get the message across. But that's part of why some people also, they don't see that type of messaging coming on out. you take a look at the hotline, and as I mentioned earlier, the hotline operates 24 hours a day by doctor, master degree professional counselors. Right. You could be a phone operator for 25 years. You will not work on our hotline unless you're a professional counselor.
At least a master.
That being said, 90 to 95% of the budget to pay for that hotline comes from fundraising, because it is the only hotline right now that is not identified with government reimbursement and financial support. Other hotlines are. This one is not, and it's just because it has not yet been adopted into that system, something that we are constantly advocating for. But we have to receive and raise money year over year in order to make sure that a professional counselor is available. Now, you take something like this pandemic, where you're seeing a spike of over 30% of calls and texts and chats coming in from youth that are in crisis. And then you take into account that we can't gather because of social distancing. So all of the fundraising events that we had planned to support that hotline have been canceled or suspended. And that's why we created the Childhelp Critical Relief Fund, which you can visit at childhelp.org/relief. And that fund is designed where 100% of the funds coming into that go to support the programs and services that right now our other efforts are unable to do because they've been canceled or suspended. So we are seeing a rise in children in crisis, greater need for the professional counselors that we have employed to serve those children, and a heightened need for people to get involved with whatever charitable gift they can. Honestly, to fund one call costs $5. So it's not a lot of money to make sure that a professional counselor is there for a child in crisis. And our hope is that everyone out there that has a heart to help children in need, especially during this time, will again visit childhelp.org/relief and make a donation to the Critical Relief Fund now, because we need those support services for these children that are right now, as Drew was mentioning earlier, trapped at home with their abusers, not able to go to school and find their safe place, not able to go to an athletic team or visit with their friends and find refuge. They are literally trapped at home. And the only outlet of support they are going to be able to find is a counselor on the other end. We need to make sure that a counselor is there. We need to be sure that that service is provided.
I want to talk a little bit about, because like you said, this is just not a subject that's talked about. We're not talking about getting a SWAT on the bottom for being, acting up. We're talking about children actually, some of them as young as 5, 4, 2, are dying at the hands of their parents.
Oh,
yeah.
5 that we know of.
5 children die every day. Every day in this country, 5 children die as a result of child abuse. Now, we really know that that number is greater because there's other child fatalities that are addressed to other factors that contributed to child abuse. But the reality is that more than 5 children are dying every day in this country as a result of abuse. And that was before the pandemic. That was before they were trapped 24 hours a day with their abusers. Before the pandemic, we are seeing in this country a report of child abuse made every 10 seconds. Every 10 seconds, there is a report of child abuse being made in this country before the pandemic. The need today is greater than ever. And that is why we are really encouraging anybody that can get involved and help us during this time and beyond to please visit us at childhelp.org, make a contribution at childhelp.org/relief, volunteer, and connecting. Drew mentioned earlier corporations. We would love to have corporate match opportunities.
We'll go meet.
Support. We would want corporate support to help bring our prevention tools into their communities where their businesses, their employees, their clients live, work, and play. Be that corporate savior in your community. Be that person that is going to make sure that every child in our community is going to be educated on what is right and what is wrong, what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. And for children in need, they are going to receive the support that they need any moment of any day because of our support.
Right.
That's what we're looking for.
Because of viewers like you, who can come in, bring your corporations in, bring your families, bring your friends, and, have online events like we're having, be able to sponsor and raise up this issue. I mean, part of the reason this issue isn't talked about too, as you were speaking, I've been around kids in other countries that, they have had their faces burned off by family members. And they are in psych wards that are not like this one that you were describing, and I come to visit them after a year because I only get out there once a year, and they're shaking from the treatment they just received. to have this kind of haven to provide for children who have experienced nothing but hell their whole lives, is you know, entertaining angels unaware. And these little children are the angels. They are the ones that we need to take care of. And again, part of the reason that people don't talk about it is it's just too hard. I mean, when we were going through your organization, my partner for the Well Corona couldn't get through it because I haven't cried in 15 years and I was weeping by, you know, page 3. So I had to get off the site. But the problem is real. We can't just turn a blind eye. You know, and just like Jesus talked about, when did you feed me, Jesus? When did you clothe me? When did you visit me in prison? When did you help me as an orphan? Well, when you helped one of these.
Exactly.
So when did you turn we can also not turn our back on Jesus, and when he's hungry, when he's beaten, right? We need to make sure that we are coming to the aid of the children that Jesus called us to take care of.
We have to.
Even if that's only $5. If you have $5 or you have $500 million.
Right. We'll take both.
Yes, it will take all. You know, I encourage you, pray, search your heart, and ask God what you can give. And go to childhelp.org/relief. All that money is going to go directly to the kids, directly helping out this surge that's happening right now in our communities, next door. It's happening whether we know it or not. It's being kept quiet because nobody wants to get caught for this. So we need to make sure that we are helping raise these resources to help these children.
Exactly. And if anybody would love to take a tour and visit any of our operations, please let me know. Be more than happy to organize a tour for anybody to see and experience firsthand the life-changing impact of our programs and services. And we're very thankful for having this opportunity to share that.
That is one thing that, as I've been talking to the different people in your organization, I love that anybody who, you know, you talked about giving these kids showers and things. Anybody who wants to work in your organization around the children has to go through specific training and be certified, because this is a, you know, ground for predators to go, oh, let me be around children. And so you make sure they go through specific training, get specific certifications in order to be even let close to any of the children.
That's correct.
That's right. You have to do that to protect them.
Yes.
Because there's predators in this world.
There are, and they tend to go into places where children are in groups and gathered. You know, we see this in our churches, we see it in our schools. And so that's one thing that Childhelp is going into communities. I know that they've gone into the Orthodox Church to help the whole church as a whole certify everyone in there so that the people working with the children are credible and are knowledgeable, and they can spot other predators too. So Childhelp is going into so many places that we don't even know. And every dollar you donate to this organization is helping weed out predators, is helping, you know, save children. So really, again, pray and go donate. This is an incredible organization. The more I learn, I tell you, go on their website and just look at the history, look at the stories, look at everything, because the more you learn about this organization, the more you're going to want to do anything you can to.
It's true. I'm impressed every day by what they do, and I've seen a lot of it. So, and again, we would love to get corporate sponsors. If anyone knows of any corporations that have funding to help things like this, we would love to get hotlines and advocacy centers in their towns. And we're ready to go because we have the prototypes and we're ready to rock and roll.
I'm going to call out Chick-fil-A. If they're not already involved, you know, they're a Christian corporation. If you're watching Chick-fil-A, come get involved with Childhelp and you know, help the children that Jesus calls us to.
Yes, amen. Send me, right?
Yes, send me, right. The workers are few, so let's be extra workers. I want to talk about, just for those who like to hear about it, because sometimes we see celebrities on board with something and we go, oh, well, then I want to be on tour too. You guys have some incredible celebrities that are speaking up as ambassadors for Childhelp. You have John Stamos, Shaq, I saw, you know, I want to post.
Very loyal. very
Yes.
loyal celebrities that have been with us for sometimes 30 years. You
Oh,
can
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean,
elaborate on
again,
that.
going into the earlier history of Sarah and Yvonne, they were Hollywood starlets. So Hollywood has always had a role of some degree inside of Childhelp. Yes, Shaquille O'Neal, Betty White, John O'Hurley, John Stamos. The list goes on in both in the acting world, the musical world, athletes. You know, I'm originally out of New York. I'm a diehard Jets fan, and Joe Namath was an original celebrity ambassador of Childhelp. Yes, celebrities have gone a long way to help leverage their influence and their platforms in order to help Childhelp's mission and vision get accomplished. And we are very, very thankful for every single one of them over the years that have played a role. Many of them give and donate. John Stamos, as an example, since you mentioned him. You know, John Stamos is the national spokesperson for our hotline. And so he commits every year. John goes to visit the children at our California village during Christmas time, and he MCs their holiday program with them. The children get a chance to work with John on their productions where the children orchestrate their own performances of what they want to do, and we bring volunteers and constituents and some family and friends and everybody over there to really celebrate the holiday time with them. But that's a commitment John makes every year in addition to helping to advocate for our hotline. Kathy Lee Gifford has been the chairwoman for our prevention education curriculum, Childhelp Speak Up, Be Safe. When she was hosting the Today Show, regularly would feature Sarah and Yvonne and showcase the different programs and services we had around the country. We're in April right now. April has been congressionally recognized as Child Abuse Prevention Month. And every year on Capitol Hill, this is actually the first year that we have not gone because of obvious reasons. But every year, Sarah and Yvonne have sat in the Oval Office of every U.S. president from Jimmy Carter all the way up to Obama.
Wow.
And communicated about what the needs are for child safety and legislation in America today, working with both sides of the aisle. This is a bipartisan issue. This is not, there's only one class or one community that is affected by child abuse. Nope, completely non-discriminatory. Every class, every community, gender, race, religion, everybody is touched dramatically and significantly by child abuse. And our celebrities lend their voice and lend their support to bring attention and awareness to this. So we are very, very thankful.
Absolutely.
Yes, and we're ready to come meet President Trump and talk with him about it.
All right. You hear that, Trump, but Trump is, on CTM, they really have a lot about Trump. So Trump, Childhelp is ready to come.
We are ready to come.
And be in the Oval Office with you, receive that support. And I know that you're on board to help Childhelp as well. I want to encourage everybody out there, go look at what some of these celebrities are doing. You'll see videos of John Stamos on YouTube, just YouTube John Stamos Childhelp. And we are all influencers of our own circles. So take some of these videos, post them to your social media, and tell everybody about Childhelp. Because if we don't know there's an issue, then we can't help. So you're doing a disservice to your friends and your family members and the people that you do have influence over if you aren't sharing this information that you have. So I encourage everyone out there, influence the group around you and post about Childhelp, tell about Childhelp. Start your own critical relief fund. So you can go to the critical relief fund. We've done this for the Well Corona event, and you put an amount that you want to raise, and you crowdsource that funding, and you raise it together. So if 5 of your friends did $100, that'd be $500 for the event.
Exactly.
You could get 100 friends involved. Even if you just did $10 a piece, you're doing so much more than could have been done before.
Yes.
And $500 in that example, that's 100 children who are in crisis that now immediately have connection to a counselor because of your support. And that's exactly, team pages like that, the ability for people to be like, it doesn't take a lot of money from one person, but it takes a lot of people coming together to move this mission forward. And that's really what we're hopeful for.
Absolutely. And that Childhelp National Abuse Hotline, again, is 1-800-4A-CHILD. And so before we wrap up here, I want to just talk about, we've touched on it, but what fear and anxiety means for children when they're home and they're in fear and anxiety, and then what having an outlet to be able to text means for them.
Fear and anxiety for a child means lack of sleep, means lack of the ability to eat, lack of the ability to communicate and socialize. It means constantly feeling apprehensive and unaware and afraid of what's coming into their room. What happens if they leave their room? What happens if they say the wrong thing? Maybe not just to themselves, maybe to a sibling, maybe to another parent. What happens to the family unit as a whole? These are the worries and the concerns that they are carrying every second of every day. And it is unbearable and unfathomable. I mean, we talk about what stress means in our lives as adults. Yes, there's been many individuals and families that right now are going through economic challenges as a result of this pandemic. And many of them have been going through stressors related to finances or their marriages or their family units, whatever. These children are living with that with no experience to fall back on, no support unit to fall back on, no understanding of what hope may look like, what a future different than that may look like. And that's what they are living with every single second of the day. And it is disheartening to understand that. Now, what does it mean when they reach out and make contact with a counselor? It means hope. It means change. It means they feel a new sense of opportunity and a life that is different than what they have experienced in their own. And the biggest thing, they don't feel alone. They don't feel like what they are experiencing, they have to experience forever. That help change opportunity is on the way. It means 180-degree difference from what they have been experiencing every moment of the day. And that 180-degree experience is felt immediately. And that is what the connection to one of our counselors means for a child or a family in crisis. We've had adults contact the hotline, literally abusers that have sat there and said, I am about to throw my child into a boiling pot of water. Stop me. We've had college students calling us right now and saying, I am so terrified because as a result of this pandemic, the university is closed. I now have to go back home and live with the people that were abusing me. I thought that I was free. I thought that I was out, and now I've got to go back. Adults, young adults, not knowing how to handle this. We are seeing now as a result of technology in society. Drew and I were actually having a conversation about this earlier. Now with financial stressors and economic challenges, parents focused on other things in order to bring financial stability to the organization and relying dominantly more on the internet and online gamings and phones in order to occupy their children's time. Do you know that the third most common searched word online by a fifth grader is pornography?
Fifth grade.
Third most common searched word by fifth graders today is pornography. That means your children at the age of fifth grade are learning about what sex is online. They are learning about how to treat one another, what intimacy is, what love is, based upon what they're being fed from those type of sites. If we don't have these conversations, if we don't give them resources to people that can help educate them what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, what is safe and what is dangerous in more appropriate ways, and if we are not helping families to understand how to have those conversations and speak with one another in a way that uplifts the child and uplifts their family unit, then we are then giving way to other things like that to educate our children. And those are the things that perpetuate the cycles of abuse that we are talking about.
And I like how you said that adults can call this 1-800 for a child as well, that if they're in so much stress that they're about ready to hurt their child. And this, especially for those younger children who wouldn't have access to a phone or wouldn't, that the adult can call and say, look, I'm afraid of myself right now. I need you to walk me through this. I need help.
And they can talk them out of the trees.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And get help there immediately to make sure that the danger situation does not occur. And that's the value of that. We were the first abuse hotline to launch text and chat capability, recognizing that a lot of children in crisis don't have the ability to actually speak. They need another medium to be able to communicate that they are at risk or that they are in danger or that they need help. We also recognize that that is the medium that most youth today choose to leverage in order to communicate with one another,
Well,
positive or
if
negative.
your abuser's on the other side of that door, you're not going to want to be raising your voice too loud on the phone. Right.
Well, we have a great story when they first implemented the texting. As a young girl went over to her friend's house to play, and her mother flipped out and started abusing the daughter. Well, this friend couldn't call on a phone, so she texted it, and the police were able to come right in the middle of the abuse. So we have amazing stories how this hotline is radically changed. Like you said, the parents being able to talk them out of the trees and then get safety for the children. So the hotline is so important in Childhelp.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us about this incredible organization.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. The more I learn, again, we started this Well Corona online summit just saying we're going to choose some charity. And we knew that we prayed the right charity would come into our lives, and Childhelp came in the most miraculous way. And it's our mission to drive as much traffic to their site, to this event, to, all the in-person events are not happening. So we have an online event that's going to help people with wellness, people with the tools to not go crazy at home, people with the financial troubles to be able to learn how to pivot their business from some of the best speakers who you would normally pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go see for $19. Because we understand with COVID-19, some people are having trouble. They're having those financial troubles right now. And so people can pick and choose from hundreds of speakers. And we've got a big name on the line that we talk to tomorrow of financial advice for those out there who are struggling financially, who need help. And for just $19, you can come and see this big name and 100 plus others, and you'll have unlimited access for $19, and half of that immediately goes to Childhelp. We've got another way that Childhelp will make 75%, and we'll be constantly pushing everybody to that donate button for our critical relief fund, where 100% goes to Childhelp. So we encourage you, go to childhelp.org/relief. Come to the Well Corona event, which is thewellnessfair.org or wellcorona.com, and just come band with us and become part of this family that helps children, just as Jesus called us to do.
Yes. And Raina, you said that Childhelp was brought to you miraculously. Yes. We believe that this organization, Sarah and Yvonne will say that we are here because it's nothing short of a miracle. It really is. And God works in mysterious ways. So thank you so much for your support. We covet that. Thank you so much.
It sure does. And I tell you, this event is so much bigger than either of us have ever done anything. And the right people, the right places, the right times are coming in. Just as we continue to pray, we continue to have hearts to do something great for God's glory and to lift up small businesses, to lift up people at home, and to lift up the children who need our help.
Yes.
So
thank you again for having us. We really appreciate it.
Very
God
appreciative.
bless.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And to our audience, until I see you again, may the Lord bless and keep you, cause his face to shine upon you, and nourish your soul.